Everyone thought he was a loser weeb, but he bags a Russian baddie with his Russian-speaking skills, shocking everyone. Alia is the most sought-after girl in the school because of his beautiful looks and because she is half Russian from her father's side. She is an all-around genius with excellent grades in both studies as well as sports, and starting this year, she is also going to be the treasurer of the student council. Everyone makes way for her as she walks, when a senior blocks her path and introduces himself as Ando. He claims that he has heard a lot about her from her sister and asks her out for a date, but the cold-hearted Alia immediately rejects him in front of everybody. Ando persists and asks her for her number at least, but Alia tells him that she has no interest whatsoever in his pathetic Discord mod face, completely destroying the man's confidence. She also tells him to take out the chain as it is against the school rules before walking away, while all the students are shocked that she just destroyed the most popular guy in the school. Alia doesn't give a damn about all this, though, as she enters her classroom and sits down beside her friend Q's sleeping on his desk. She kicks the chair, waking him up as she glares at him, asking whether his pathetic ass was watching anime all night again. He tells her that anime is an art form of the gods, and she shouldn't disrespect it as it has helped several guys escape loneliness, and tells her that he had a fight on Twitter with a neckbeard about whether lolis are legal or not. She doesn't understand his yapping and turns away, but when he starts yawning, she ends up saying something in Russian, which embarrasses her. She claims that it was nothing, after which Q starts looking for his chemistry book, realizing that he forgot to bring it. Alia agrees to share her book, so he attaches their table and the class starts. In the middle, he starts sleeping again while the teacher was asking questions, so Alia jabs him with a pen, making him jump up in pain. The teacher asks whether he knows the answer, and he is forced to stand up not even knowing what the question is. He looks towards Alia, who points out towards the word copper, and he immediately blurts it out. But it's the wrong answer, after which Alia stands up and tells them the right answer. They sit down and Q's asks why she is making fun of him, but she claims that he should be aware that people can lie. He screams at her for being a bad friend, but she replies with something Russian, which she claims meant stupid. Q's, however, is not satisfied, and he repeats the phrase in his mind only to realize that she called him cute, as she doesn't know that he can understand a little bit of Russian. When he was a kid, there was a Russian girl that moved in his neighborhood, so he ended up picking up phrases from her. Unbeknownst to Alia, Q's can basically understand everything she says, but knows that if he calls her out, she will die of embarrassment. A little while later, the class gets over and Q's immediately takes out his phone. Alia tells him it's not allowed, but Q's claims that it's an emergency as he has the chance to get a gift in Genshin. He looks at it before screaming happily that he got the moon goddess, after which Alia grabs his phone and looks at it to find a silver-haired woman in the game. She hands it back to him while he simps over the goddess like a total weirdo. Alia seems to be hurt as she mumbles in Russian that even she has silver hair, but when Q's asked what she said, she claims that she called him a try-hard gamer. He tells her that she is wrong as he only plays free-to-play characters, unlike true sweaty tryhards who use pay to win characters to play the game. Alia simply tells him that he will die alone if he stays a shut-in like this before moving away. During the lunch break, Q sits with his friends at a table. The bald creep with no bitches is named Maru, while the blondie is called Kyo. Maru keeps yapping about how he has never smelled a girl and will probably die alone, when suddenly they spot Alia and her group of girls in the canteen as they try and look for seats. Kyo admires the beauty of the Russian sisters, while Maru gossips about how he heard that Masha is dating someone as she keeps turning down any guy that asks her out. Q's tells Maru that he wouldn't have a chance even if he was the last guy left, while the baldy tells him to shut up and accuses him of being very dickish just because Alia talks to him. Q's turns to look at her, then tells Maru that she mostly snaps at him angrily, but Maru is a degenerate who would let girls step on him, so he doesn't mind being verbally berated. He claims that if he had a chance, he would have gone for Suo because she seems to be the most approachable, but Kyo brings him to reality, claiming that she is still out of league and has rejected even more guys than Alia or Masha. Q's turns around to see Alia and Suo walking their way when his eyes meet with Suo, who smiles at him and asks whether she can sit here. He agrees and Suo immediately takes her seat beside him while Alia sits across the table looking a bit grumpy and disappointed. Suo starts talking to Q's about their similar ramen choices and how they both think that the ramen should be made spicier, while Alia looks at her omelet and starts fuming. She asks Q's whether he and Suo know each other, and Suo replies that they have known each other since childhood as they went to preschool together and have been friends ever since. Q's asks Suo whether she is friends with Alia, but she claims that not yet, but hopefully they will become friends soon, while Alia looks down and claims that she wouldn't mind. Soon the two third-wheelers move away from the table, while Maru tells Q's to get the dub with these two and leaves. Immediately Suo shifts towards Q's, annoying Alia as she starts asking Q's whether he wants to join the council as she has offered him a position. Q's refuses, claiming that he has no interest whatsoever, but Suo persists, claiming that he will be a good fit with herself and Alia. Moreover, he also has experience being the vice president during middle school. This surprises Alia, but Q's claims that during that time, he was the VP while Suo was he president, but it was only because each president had to have a mate with them who can become the VP. Sup turns towards Alia and tells her that despite how he looks, he still knows how to get work done, but Alia seems annoyed as she drinks her cola, claiming in Russian that she already knew that and doesn't need her ugly ass to tell her. After lunch was over, Suo bids goodbye, leaving Alia and Q's alone, and Alia immediately asks whether they are close. Q's replies that they are good friends and asks why Alia looks so surprised. She claims that she never thought any girl would want to be a weeb's friend, but he points his finger at her, claiming that she is a girl and his friend. Alia is taken aback and claims that she is indeed his friend before walking away, claiming that she forgot something in the office. Later that night, Q's ends up dreaming about his childhood and the Russian girl who he would play with every single day as she taught him how to speak a little bit in Russian. She didn't know any Japanese, so Q's ended up forcing himself to learn Russian just to talk to her. He wakes up from the dream with a sad face as he realized that at this point she doesn't even remember her name. After that he didn't go to sleep, instead decided to head over for school, where he ended up cleaning everything in his classroom. By the time Alia arrived, the classroom was shining as Q's tells her that he woke up early and had nothing to do. She walks over to her desk and Q's notices that she has a stain on her socks. Alia explains that while walking, a truck ran over a puddle and splashed her, but she has extra socks so it doesn't matter. After that she looks at Q's and asks whether he really doesn't want to join the student council. Q's replies with a sigh that he indeed doesn't have any interest in the council. She looks a bit disappointed, but then she pulls out her sock and notices Q's looking away immediately. She decides to mess with him a bit and tells him to bring a spare sock from her locker. He averts his eyes and gets the sock from the locker, but Alia tells him to put it on her feet. He is shocked at that, but Alia claims that it must be a treat for a creep like him, and Q's realizes that it indeed is a treat, when suddenly Alia speaks under her breath in Russian about how it is a treat for her as well. What a diabolical story, Jesus Christ. Q's starts psychoanalyzing her behavior and thinks whether she is a perfectionist who is using Russian with him to feel a little free or just some kind of exhibitionist. Anyhow, he drops down to his knees and grabs her feet, shocking Alia, who didn't think he would do it. She starts squirming away, but he holds her feet tightly and starts sliding on the sock slowly. While pulling it up, he accidentally touches her chicken thighs, which gets him a swift kick to the face, knocking him out, while Alia Rousey gets up and scurries away. Later that day, he texts his League of Legends forum about how he might have thing for feet when he notices that Alia still seems a bit mad. She walks out, and he follows her, immediately apologizing for his actions. She turns around and tells him that it was actually her fault as she kicked him and tries to touch his neck, asking whether he is hurt. He immediately backs off embarrassed, claiming she has nothing to apologize for as she showed him a peek of the promised Neverland. Alia suddenly realizes what he is talking about while Q's wonders why he is so stupid. Even after that he bows down and thanks her for the spectacular view, which gets him a punch to the face by Ronda Rousey, knocking him down. She starts running away, calling him a creep in Russian, but he gives chase, following her while she tells him to get lost. After a while he catches up to her and offers him her favorite cola as a peace offering. She takes a sip and asks in Russian whether he wants a sip. He ends up chickening out and pretends not to understand what she said, while Alia smiles and claims in Russian that she can express her feelings in Russian, which he will never understand, while Q stands there thinking that he knows Russian very well, but decides to keep it a secret for now to see what her true feelings are. Some days pass by when one afternoon, Yuki calls onto Q's and asks him to help her out clear the council room. He reluctantly agrees as his lazy ass is not used to working out. but he meets up with her regardless, and they start chatting when suddenly Alia appears from behind some boxes, looking a bit pissed to see the closeness between Yuki and Q's. He realizes that Yuki definitely set this whole thing up to mess with him, as she knows Alia likes him. They start cleaning everything and Yuki keeps chatting with him, while Alia seemingly gets even more pissed and tells Q's to pay more attention to work. Yuki realizes that this is the perfect time, so she excuses herself and moves out, when suddenly Q's hears Alia mumble in Russian that even she wants some attention. She keeps telling him to come near her in Russian, smugly thinking that she is literally throwing herself at him while he has no idea. Meanwhile, Q's is wondering what kind of a thirsty thought talks so openly. Thankfully for him, the remaining work gets sorted out pretty quickly, and he was about to take his leave when suddenly the door opens and a tall senior enters the room, surprised to see it all so clean already. Yuki tells him that Q's helped them, so he thanks Q's and introduces himself as Ken, the president of the student council. He tells Q's that he has heard a lot about him from both Alia and Yuki, but Q's starts feeling uncomfortable and decides to leave. Ken stops him, claiming that he helped them after school so he will buy him dinner tonight. Q's politely refuses the offer, claiming that he was just helping some friends. Before he can leave though, Yuki jumps in the conversation and tells him that he should accept the gift as he will have to cook for himself at home anyways. Ken ends up making the decision for them and also invites both Yuki and Alia to join them for dinner. Later that evening, they all go down to a diner and sit down, while Ken again thanks Q's for helping them with the council work. Yuki tells him that Q's is pretty good at physical work as he gets it done pretty quickly. Moreover, he is an expert negotiator as well. Ken immediately recognizes his talent and offers him a position in the student council. Q's again politely refuses, claiming that he is done with student council work forever, as he didn't really enjoy it during middle school. Ken agrees that it is definitely a lot of work, but tells him that it has its own benefits as well. He tells Q's that being in a student council means that he has an automatic recommendation to join the best colleges in the country. But even after this, Q's shows no interest as he simply wants to watch anime and enjoy life. Unfortunately for him, Yuki wouldn't stop writing him and tells him that they can run for the next council president once again just like they did in middle school. Q's refuses this time more firmly, while Ken tells him that Yuki is going to have tough competition as Alia is also going to run for the council president. Q's had no idea about it, and he looks at her for confirmation. Alia tells him that she is indeed going to run against Yuki next year during the elections, but before they could talk any further, their food arrives. After the dinner, they all part ways as Ken head on the other direction alongside Yuki, leaving Q's to drop Alia back home. On the way back, Q's asks Alia whether she is actually going to run against Yuki, but she doesn't seem to be very eager to talk about it, and tells him that she will go on her own from here. Q's bids her goodbye and heads back home, only to find Yuki sprawled on the couch, reading a romantic novel. It turns out that Yuki is actually Q's real sister, but because she wants to be his wingman, she is pretending to be his love interest to make Alia jealous and want him more. He tells her that he doesn't need her help and heads back to sleep. The next morning, he gets woken up by his annoying sister once again, who jumps on top of his bed and tells him to get up even though it's a Sunday. This annoying brat then drags Q's all the way to a mall to have some good breakfast, but she starts forcing him to watch a movie with him. He refuses, and they head out to a nearby clothing store where he notices that Yuki's behavior is changed, and he asks what's up with that. She tells him that she noticed Alia tailing them, so she is going to stop behaving like his sister. He wonders what he should do right now, but before he could even say anything, Yuki ends up moving towards Alia and greets her warmly. Alia gets pretty embarrassed, but pretends that she just came here to shop some clothes and they met by coincidence. The bratty sis asks Alia whether she has had lunch yet, as they were just going to a restaurant, and invites Alia to join them. She then asks whether Alia likes spicy food, but poor Alia has only had mildly spicy curry and claims that she is fine with spices. Yuki tells her that they are going to a ramen place that serves pretty spicy food and invites her to join. Q's decides to come clean and tells Alia that the ramen is not just normal spicy. In fact, this restaurant makes ramen insanely spicy enough to make lava come out anyone's ass. Alia feels like Q's is trying to push her away to be alone with Yuki, so she decides to join them regardless. They head out to the ramen place, which scares the daylights out of Alia, who has never seen such a demonic-looking restaurant before. Q's tells Alia that she is making a mistake, but Alia is determined and goes in with them. Soon they order a bowl of ramen each, while Alia notices that Yuki is wearing quite boyish clothes today. Yuki decides to use this as an advantage, and tells Alia that this morning she was in bed with Q's, so she decided to borrow one of his shirt for the day. Q's ends up spitting out the water he was drinking while Alia looks at him darkly. He tries to explain himself, claiming that she just ended up jumping on his bed while he was sleeping, but Alia doesn't buy it even for a second. Thankfully, the ramen bowl arrives just in the nick of time, which shocks Alia completely as she has never seen something as red and hot as this bowl. Yuki and Q's seem pretty fine with it as Yuki tells them all to dig in before the noodles get soggy. Alia decides that she can't be left behind, so she immediately takes out the chopsticks and cools the noodles down a little bit before gulping them down. Immediately the spice hits her, but she pretends to be completely fine. Q's and Yuki also start eating and don't find the spice too much as they are used to it. But Q's ends up hearing Alia mumbling in Russian about how insanely hot it is, and he gets worried, so he asks her not to eat it, as they can get something else for her. Alia tells him that she likes the heat a lot, while Q's can literally see her tearing up and asking for help in Russian. Before he can say anything again, Yuki asks Alia about what she thinks of this dish, and when Alia says that she likes it, Yuki messes with her even more and gives her hot sauce to add in her ramen to make it taste even hotter. Q's tells Alia not to do it, but she is not going to lose this battle, so she puts a small amount of sauce in her noodles and tries it once again. This time she ends up screaming loudly, unable to control herself, and runs out of the restaurant. Q's follows her and finds her alone in a park and asks whether she is okay. Alia replies that she is fine, but Q's asks her whether she wants some ice cream and she immediately agrees. He gets her a triple scoop, which she likes much more than the hellish ramen. But while she was eating, Q's again asks her why she wants to become the council president. This makes her mood sour quickly as she tells him that she just wants to try. He asks whether she has a partner, but she replies that she doesn't, claiming that she has no need for a partner and can do it all herself. He tells her that it doesn't work that way as she needs to have someone to run for vice president with her. She replies that she will find a random person and put their name down in the register and it should be fine. But under her breath, she mumbles in Russian that she would want him to be her partner. She finishes up her ice cream and asks Q's whether he has any plans, as she wants him to help her shop for some clothes. Q's agrees to help her, claiming that they are friends, which surprises her a little, as she wonders whether he is feeling pity for her because he thinks she doesn't stand a chance against Yuki. She angrily walks into the changing room, determined to blow his mind with her fashion sense, but gets cold feet thinking what if he doesn't react at all. She still comes out of the room, and to her surprise, the moment Q sees her, he immediately compliments her, saying that the dress is making her look even prettier than she normally is. This blows her mind as she silently closes the curtains and starts panicking, while on the other side, even Q starts feeling embarrassed of the cringy lines he just spoke. Alia decides to keep it going, so she starts changing her dresses one by one, giving a full-on fashion show to Q's, who compliments each and every dress on her, which makes her feel even better. She finally decides to try something a little more revealing and opens the curtains to pose, only to see that Yuki has also arrived. She quietly backs off and shuts the curtains before feeling embarrassed and wanting to crawl into a hole. Later that evening they head back together in the train, but Alia is still too fried to talk. Finally, Yuki and Q's station comes, so they bid her goodbye and get off the train. Alia starts cussing herself for wearing something so skimpy, as now Q's will think she is a skank, when suddenly she realizes that both of them got off onto the same station, as she decides whether to spy on them or not. That night, Alia returns back home looking a little down, but she is immediately pounced on by her own sister, who hugs her and asks how her day was. Alia very lazily replies that it was fine before moving into her room. Masha, however, is not fooled so easily and asks Alia whether something happened because she isn't acting like her usual self. Alia takes a deep breath and claims that she just came back after meeting Q's and his childhood friend. Masha immediately starts smiling as she realizes that this is about a boy and asks Alia whether she likes him. Alia immediately defends herself by saying that she has no such feelings of him and claims that they are only friends and nothing else. Masha starts laughing and asks how did this guy manage to steal her heart, considering she never liked being friends with anyone who was a lazy slacker and she always wanted her friends to be perfectionist. She realizes that Masha is right, as 6 years ago when she was still in Russia. They ended up getting a group project about learning the ins and outs of the local businesses. She eagerly divided group works amongst her friends and rigorously planned everything out as she wanted their report to be the best in the class. She followed the schedule perfectly and collected data on several businesses all alone on Sunday. But when she went back to school on Monday, she found out that none of her friends have even started thinking about it. She gets worked up and tells them that the report will take a lot of time to write. But her friends seem unconcerned, claiming that they have a full week to work on it. Suddenly, the blondie notices her work notebook and picks it up, claiming that Alia has literally written a whole essay already. They tell her to chill out as this is just a school assignment, but Alia is one of those perfectionists who got no chill, so she tells them to take this seriously. This results in her getting into a major argument with the blondie, who tells her to do it all alone if she wants to be such a perfectionist, and leaves. Later that evening, Alia stays over late and keeps writing the report and continues to do so every single day till finally the results of the reports is unveiled. A different group ends up winning because their report was more cohesive, while Alia holds back her tears clutching her group work that she did all alone. That day, while walking back home with tears glistening on her cheeks, she decides that from now on she will never depend on anybody because they will always disappoint her no matter what. After that, she ended up qualifying a very difficult examination and got transferred to Japan, where the first day, she ended giving a speech at the ceremony, which immediately made her a favorite. After the assembly, when the class was about to start, she noticed Q's for the first time, sleeping on his desk with no care in the world. She wakes her up, claiming that the class is about to start, and he groggily tells her that her speech was phenomenal. She introduces herself very cordially as she expected everyone at this super prestigious school to be perfectionists like her. Slowly, the facade wears down as she notices that most students here are slackers as well, and most of all, Q's was the biggest slacker, never bringing the correct books, always behind in physical education, and literally sleeping through the entire math class. Soon she starts going back in her shell, and not talking to others because they were disappointing her once again. Soon the seasons change and the school festival arrives. They all divide duties and start working on it. But even after being behind in all aspects, the students are very chill about it and go back home while Alia works overtime sewing the banner as she felt all alone once again. She hurts herself once again and puts on a band-aid when suddenly the door flings open and Q's enters the room. Alia is surprised to see him after the school is over, but he claims that she shouldn't overwork and go back home. Alia at this point is pretty prickly and tells him to mind his own business as she has a lot of work to do. But he tells her not to worry as he has sorted everything out. He used some connections to get permissions to stay overnight in the school. He also made some friends in the handicraft club and convinced them to help with the festival work as well, so now there are a lot of people who can help. He tells her to relax and go back home, but her feelings finally end up coming out as she tears up and claims that she can't relax because she wants to put a really good festival which people will genuinely enjoy. And she won't be satisfied with any shabby, and she will not compromise on the quality of work no matter what. He tells her that she is putting all her efforts in the wrong places. He claims that she is putting all her efforts into doing everything alone. But if she was smarter, she would have focused all her attention on convincing everyone else to work together, which would have lowered the load on her as well as involve all the students. She stands up and leaves the room while wondering what the hell is that guy's problem. The next day, however, is a total shift from what she was dealing with as Q's somehow motivated everyone to do their best for the festival, and they started coming up with hundreds of ideas for attractions. They started staying late in the school, having fun and working together, and slowly Alia started opening up to her classmates again. The day of festival finally comes, and it turns out to be a total hit as their attraction ends up winning the best attraction in the school award by a large margin. The festival finally ends with a student dance, where Alia finds Q's sitting all alone. He asks why she is not dancing as everyone and their mothers would want to dance with her, but she claims that she doesn't want to dance right now because every boy keeps bothering her about it. Q's laughs and tells her that because of her attitude, everyone has started calling her the Ice Princess, but Alia doesn't seem thrilled about it. She claims that she doesn't like the fact that they call her a princess because it makes her feel like she was born with everything, even though she has worked very hard for everything she has achieved till now. Q's smiled and tells her that he won't call her that name then. Alia then turns to him and apologizes for lashing at him the other day and asks whether she could do anything for him to show her gratitude. Q's tells her that she doesn't need to do all that as she was still the person who put the most effort, but Alia claims that she needs to repay him for his kindness. Suddenly, a bunch of boys appear behind her and the incels start bothering her again for a dance, pressuring her even though she didn't want to. Q's decides to take matters into his own hands and takes her arm before running into the grounds, asking Alia for a dance as her thanks. Finally, we return back to the present where Masha claims that it sounds like the start to a beautiful love story. But Alia again claims that he is just a friend because he is capable and can get things done. But Masha is not fooled as she smiles at her. The next morning, Q's goes to the students' council to cover for Yuki as she didn't come that day. There he ends up meeting with Masha, who tells Q's that she has heard a lot about him and wanted some help with shopping for supplies. He agrees, and she immediately thanks him and grabs his hands. Suddenly, she feels a familiar feeling as if she has met him before and asks him for his food name. Q's tells him her full name, and immediately she realizes something, but keeps her mouth shut and tells him in Russian that they should get moving. They start walking and enter a shopping mall where Masha completely forgets why she was here and starts looking at different stuffed toys to buy for the student council. She buys a cat plushie and also starts looking a lion wearing some glasses for the council president. But Q's tells her that he won't be a big fan. They start walking back when she enters a tea shop to try some of their tea. And while she was tasting the different types of brewing methods, Q's suddenly remembers how his parents separated when he was young, and he decided to stay with his dad. But Yuki ended up choosing their mom, forcing the siblings to be separated from each other. Suddenly, he snaps back to reality only to find Masha in front of him looking worried. She tells him that he looks pained and immediately hugs him while stroking his hair. This completely shocks him as he feels a wave of nostalgia come over him as he wonders why this feels so familiar and relaxing. His session quickly gets over though because he gets burned by the hot teacup while still wondering why Masha's touch reminds him of his childhood. Later that day, they walk back over to the student council room where the president immediately notices the huge toy in Masha's arms. He tells her that student council shouldn't be a place to put soft toys, but Masha doesn't seem to care about it and keeps telling him that she wanted to get him a lion. The president walks up to the shopping bags, scared what else did Masha buy, but thankfully the remaining things were ordinary school supplies, which brings him some relief. He thanks Q's for helping them buy the supplies as he doesn't trust Masha to shop alone. And Q's can totally understand it as he knows Masha would have made the council room a total theme park if left alone. The president again tells Q's that he should reconsider his decision to join the student council as they need capable people like him. And Masha seems to be in agreement, as she claims that he should at least join them on paper. Q's asks why are they so hell-bent on making him join the council, and the president replies that he thinks Q's has a special talent with sorting things out, which is very important for a student council. He claims that Q's was an excellent vice president during his junior school, and Q's replies that while working on that position, he realized that there were no real ambitions or goals of his that he would be able to achieve if he continued being at that position, so it doesn't make sense for him. The president tells him that goals don't need to be 100% aligned with the goal of working at full efficiency. He claims that he joined the student council not because he wanted to transform the school for the better, but because he wanted to win the heart of the girl he liked. He whips out his phone and shows Q's the picture of a fat incel, looking very insecure. At first Q's doesn't identify the fatty, but Ken claims that it is none other than him 2 years ago. Q's is shocked at the incredible glow-up transformation, while Ken tells him that 2 years ago, he was a loser with bad grades and no talent in any sports. But then he fell in love with a beautiful girl named Sarah, the vice president, but she was way too out of his league, so he decided to better himself in order to become a viable match as a boyfriend for a girl like Sarah. Becoming the council president was just a step in achieving that dream, so his reasoning to join the council was very selfish. Masha joins in the conversation and tells Q's that even she joined just because she was friends with Sasha and wanted to talk to her more, claiming that everyone who joins the council has their own selfish reasons, and that's completely fine. This seems to change Q's mind a little while Ken tells him that it's perfectly fine for him to join the council, even if his sole goal is to help someone become the president. Q's looks at a smiling Ken and asks him for some time to think upon it. He then realizes that Alia hasn't arrived yet, but Ken tells him that she probably will get late today as she has gone out to mediate a fight between the soccer and the baseball team, as both want to use the field. Q's immediately leaves the council room as he wonders whether he should check upon Alia to make sure she is doing fine. Meanwhile, Alia is not doing very fine as both the soccer and the baseball teams are at each other's throats as they hurl insult at each other like a Call of Duty lobby, when Alia tells them to talk politely. Alia tries to ask one of them to use a smaller field by the river, but none of the teams are willing to go there as they both start arguing again, while ignoring poor Alia's voice. She realizes that she always decided to work alone, and because of that she has no idea how to deal with people and make them listen to her. Tears start rolling down her cheeks as she wonders whether she is fit to be in the student council. Meanwhile, Q's reaches the area and overhears the heated discussion while Alia failed to mediate them. Q's decides that it is good experience for her and was about to leave, when he hears her call out for help in Russian, which only he understood. He decides to intervene in the middle and introduces himself to them as the student council member in charge of the general affairs. Alia seems surprised, but relieved to see him as he quickly takes control of the situation and claims that because the baseball team has fewer members, they will move to the smaller Riverside field. But in return, the soccer team members will help the baseball team move all their equipment. At first, both the teams seemed uncertain about this compromise, but the managers of the soccer team speak up, volunteering to help the baseball team move, and seeing a couple of beauties willing to help them out soon softened the baseball team as well, and they agreed to the compromise. Later that evening, both Q's and Alia start walking back, while Q's apologizes for putting his nose in between her matters. She claims that she likes his nose between her juicy matters and asks whether he knew the managers would decide to help the baseball team. Q's smiles and claims that the captain of the baseball team is currently dating the manager of the football team, and that's why he wasn't saying too much, as he wanted to help his girlfriend. Meanwhile, the manager was confused what to do, since she knew soccer team's demands were too much. He claims that he simply gave them a middle way out, which he knew both the baseball captain and the manager would agree to, and the plan worked. Alia looks at him impressed that he thought and noticed these many things when they run into Ken, who asks whether everything got sorted out. Q's immediately realizes that Ken planned all of this to begin with as he asks Q's for his decision about the council. Q's takes a deep breath and tells him that he is ready to join the student council, which shocks Alia, while Ken tells him to come to the council immediately to get his joining form. Later that night, when they start walking back, Alia asks Q's whether he is joining the council to help Yuki become the new president, and Q's asks what will she do if he does decide to help her. Yuki takes a deep breath and tells him that she won't back down and fight against him to become the new president, which makes Q's smile, and he tells her that he has decided to help her become the new president and not Yuki. This catches Alia off guard, while Q's promises that he will help her become the president of the council, no matter what, and offers her his hand. Alia wipes off her tears and takes his hand before smiling at him, which suddenly makes his heart feel something which he hasn't felt since the time he met that blonde girl in his childhood. Suddenly Alia twists his hand, asking whether he was thinking about some other girl right now, making Q's sweat, who wonders what to say in this situation. She asks him whether he was thinking about Yuki, and he immediately denies, but she thinks he is lying and delivers a tight slap, knocking him to the floor. She then walks up to him and helps him up back to his feet before they start walking back together. On the way they talk about everyday life, making jokes and having fun, when they finally reach Alia's apartments, and the time to say goodbye comes. Alia asks whether his cheek is still aching, but he claims that it's just stinging a little, but he should be fine, as he has experience with getting pepper sprayed by girls. Alia decides to relieve some of the pain as she walks up to him and plants a light kiss on his cheeks, making him blush as she walks away, claiming that it was just a friendly kiss. Q's can't believe what just happened, as he stands there blankly, wondering why this Russian girl is playing with his heart like this. He starts returning back home, and dies from cringe when he thinks about the corny things that he just said to Alia. He wonders what made him say things like that, but at the same time Alia was also going along with it, without trying to resist. He wonders whether she actually loves him, and all the flirting in Russian was real. But he smacks himself on the head, reminding himself that Alia is way beyond his league, and he shouldn't get his hopes up. He returns back home and realizes that if this entire day was a setup to make him join the student council, then Yuki must be in on it, so he enters the dark house to confront her. He finds her in the bathroom while she starts celebrating because the trope of walking in on your sister never happened in their life. Q screams at her that it didn't happen because it's not necessary, but Yuki straight up says that anime fans love fanservice. They walk into Q's room where she starts drying her hair out and asks whether the president or Masha managed to make him join the council. And he hesitantly replies that he did join the council, but there is a catch. Yuki looks at him eagerly while he tells her that instead of helping her win the seat for the president, he has decided to help Alia instead. There was a brief silence where Yuki looked very sad, but she was faking it as that was her entire plan. She starts acting all bratty though, and tells Q's that this is technically cheating, and Q's needs to spoil her now that he is not even going to support her through the elections. He takes the brush from her hand and starts brushing it, while telling her that he is really happy to be with her after being separated for so long because of their parents. Yuki smiles and tells him that she doesn't care whether he is her brother or not, but she will fight with all her strength to win the chair of the president. She leaves the room happy that her brother found someone who could motivate him to work harder and wonders how long he will be able to keep it up. The next morning, he wakes up on his own, surprised to find that Yuki didn't make a whole scene to try and wake him up. He wonders whether she got hurt by what he said yesterday and decides to make it up to her with some good breakfast. But the moment his feet touch the ground, he is jump scared by her own sister, who starts laughing like a maniac and tells him that he needs to watch him back because now they are rivals. Q's realizes that his bratty sis will make life hell for him, but to his delight, Yuki ends up getting stuck like my stepsister. She tells Q's that she wants his help to unstuck her, but he decides to take revenge and starts pushing his bed sheet down her face to pack her in with the terrible sweaty smell. Later that morning, Alia sits down on her desk as she keeps anxiously looking at Q's empty desk, wondering how he will act today. She seems a little embarrassed by her actions yesterday and gets jump scared when Q's walks in the room. She tries to act all normal, but when she looks at him that day, she realizes that he looks much better than usual. All during the class, she keeps looking at him, wondering why is he glowing so much, even though he looked completely normal. She also realizes that he didn't sleep in the class today and wonders whether he is doing this for her. Later during a volleyball game, she seems completely distracted when the balls fly over to her, but she quickly snaps into action and hits the ball hard into the opponent's court, scoring a point. She immediately looks over to the guys' team where Q's gets hit from behind with the ball and gets knocked out cold. A little while later, he steps out of the gym to get some fresh air as he rubs his head, when Alia walks after him and asks whether he is feeling fine. She checks his head for a fever before fixing her hair, and all this while Q's is shocked to see that she looks even more pretty than usual. He immediately looks away and goes over to drink some water, but this thirsty-ass man still keeps looking at Alia drinking water. He immediately puts his head in the water, feeling really happy about himself when Masha walks up to them and asks whether Q's is okay as she heard he got hit. Q's is immensely pleased with himself for bagging the most beautiful girl in the school and starts looking at the clouds when Masha tells him to bend down and starts drying his hair out. After going through literal heaven, he thanks her and claims that he now knows how a dog feels. Soon Alia tells Masha that she should go back to her class as Q's and her are going to go as well. She starts dragging Q's away to a secluded spot where Q's wonders whether he is going to get scolded for touching another girl, but instead she starts asking whether he can still feel pain in his head and suggests him to put an ice pack on it to prevent swelling. He is surprised that she is being so nice today and wonders whether they have already entered the honeymoon phase and will be acting all lovey-dovey. He tries to touch his head, but he backs off, claiming that she isn't being herself today. Alia starts blushing and claims that Q's was looking different today and she was worried if anything was wrong. Q's tells her that apart from not having breakfast, everything was the same today. Hearing this, Alia realizes that this massive jerk didn't try to better himself for her, but was simply too hungry to sleep in the class. She calls him out for it, but he claims that he simply didn't sleep in the class as he slept very nicely last night. This humiliates her even more as she realizes that all night long she was unable to sleep. This idiot was having the best sleep of his night. She immediately walks away in anger, muttering to herself that she can never actually fall in love with a stupid person like Q's, while he felt much better now that Alia was back to her original self. Later that day, after the bell rang, Q's happily gets up from his seat and asks Alia whether they can go to the council room together. She gets up without saying a word and starts walking, as if annoyed at him, but Q's knows that she is just at Sundir and nothing else. On the way to the council room, they spot the boys from both the baseball and the soccer team apologize to someone in the council room before running away scared. Q's wonders what that was all about and enters the room only to find a purple-haired tomboy with a bamboo stick in her hand, making her look even more threatening. Q's immediately tries to shut the door again, but the girl blocks it with her hand and opens it up back again before apologizing to them and introducing herself as Sarah, the secretary of this council and the president's girlfriend. They both enter the council and take their seat, while Q's asks what were the athletes doing in this room. Sarah tells him that they were having an argument again, so this time she went to sort it out with her bamboo sword and her fists, and it was just a matter of threatening violence, after which both the teams automatically decided to find a middle ground. The president laughs at this situation, claiming that Sarah is not as scary as she looks, and they start doing their lovey-dovey stuff, while Q's and Alia make jokes about them. Soon Masha enters as well, and the Q's first council meeting begins as he steps up and introduces himself as the head of general affairs and states the fact that he will be partnered up with Alia for the next election to help her become the president. Alia looks at him dreamily while the president smiles and wishes him best of luck. He tells Q's that since he was the vice president in junior school, he should quickly get the hang of it, but for today he is going to pair up with Masha as they are very short-staffed right now and need all the help they can get. Q's agrees immediately, while Yuki smiles and tells the president that she needs to have a conversation with the art club regarding the festival coming up and tells the president that she would need the help of Alia as well because she is the treasurer and they need to discuss finances. This is a bit strange because none of this had been discussed before, but Alia agrees to go immediately. Both the girls leave the room while Q's wonders what kind of plan is Yuki hatching as he knows that something is definitely up. His suspicions turn out to be true when Yuki takes Alia to a separate room with no one in Sigjit, where Alia decides to diffuse the tension and apologizes to her for stealing Q's as her own partner for the next elections. Yuki looks down and tells Alia not to worry as this is not her fault and Q's made his own choices which she doesn't really mind, but she would have been much happier if he chose her. Alia looks at her and builds up her courage before asking Yuki what does she feel about Q's. To her absolute surprise, Yuki straight up tells Alia that she loves Q's more than anything else in this world, including her own mom and dad. Alia is still shocked when Yuki springs up the same question to her and asks whether she likes Q's as well. Alia immediately starts blushing and looks down before replying that Q's is just a friend for her. Yuki decides to press her even more and asks whether she is in love with her or not. Alia finds herself at a loss of words once again, while Yuki pushes her against the wall, claiming that she has already told her that she loves Q's, and now it's Alia's turn to make things clear. Alia struggles for a bit, before replying that even though she doesn't know whether she loves him, she will never have Yuki have him. Yuki smiles cheekily and tells her that this is enough conversation for today as they need to work as well, and leaves the room, while Alia wonders what the hell just happened. Meanwhile, back in the council room, Masha and Q's where they spend their time cross-checking documents and making corrections wherever needed. Q's realizes that Masha is really good at her job when his eyes wander off towards Chisa, who doesn't have enough brain cells to even take out a book properly, as she falls to the ground with all the books. Soon Masha is also done with her work and tells Q's that they should take a small tea break before working again. She immediately gets up and heads over to get some black tea, while Q's asks her whether Russians drink black tea in the summers. She tells her that usually they drink it only during the winters, but since her mother is Japanese and loves black tea, they drink it very often in the summers too. This makes Q's think about how the girl he liked when he was young also had a mother that loved black tea. When Masha breaks his thoughts and asks whether he knows a lot about Russians, he lies and claims that he has only watched a couple of movies and that's it, while in fact he studied really hard to learn as much as possible about the Russian culture. Masha soon sits down beside him and starts eating spoonfuls of jam before every sip of tea, which is also a Russian thing. Q's also tries to do the same, but it is too sweet for his taste. Soon after that, Yuki and Alia also return from their errand, and Masha immediately sets out to make tea for them as well. Alia looks a little grumpy, but puts her chair really close to Q's and sits down, asking if he has any problem. Q's immediately looks over to Yuki and realizes that she has pulled some new trick this time and wonders what's going to happen. Masha cheerfully asks Alia whether she found any guys she likes and would love to marry, but Alia shakes her head before softly whispering in Russian that it's too early for marriage. Q's looks at her when Masha puts down a huge plate of jam in front of her, which she starts gulping down angrily. Soon the president dismisses all of them, and Q's starts the walk back home with Alia while the sun starts setting. He wonders what Yuki told her as she looks very stressed and decides to do something about it. He invites her to a small cafe, claiming that they should discuss a little about their presidential election because they don't get much time during the school. Alia whispers in Russian asking whether this is a date, which makes Q's blush, but he pretends not to understand it and enters the cafe with her. They sit down and she gets 2 big boy smoothies so she can post them on Insta when Q's decides to address the Russian in the room and asks whether something happened with Yuki. She gave him an annoyed look and told him that nothing happened, which just made him absolutely sure that Yuki pulled some trick on her. Suddenly Alia asks Q's whether he is dating Yuki, but Q's outright denies it, claiming that he would date his own mom before dating Yuki. Alia looks at him suspiciously, so Q's decides to clear some air and tells her that Yuki is not as ladylike and innocent as she looks, and promises that she is simply messing around and teasing her. This makes Alia relax a little while Q's tells her that they need to do something about Yuki, because as it is, they will definitely lose the elections. Alia looks at him a little frustrated, but he claims that this is a truth. He explains that usually there are much more candidates that try to fight for an election, and after a general meeting where the candidates are supposed to have a brainless debate like Biden and Trump, half of the candidates drop out because they realize they don't have any support. Then finally, the top 3 candidates are chosen to run the election, and amongst them, one is chosen. Unfortunately, this time everyone thinks that Yuki will win by default, and because of that no one is even interested in standing against her. While Q's is giving his monologue, Alia is completely distracted by the fact that even though they are alone in a cafe, he is not even acting a little shy, as if he comes here with different girls every single day. She ends up biting her entire straw before she decides to stress eat right in front of him. Q's is a little surprised by this, and this breaks his thought train, while Alia decides that this is a time to pull the classic move of sharing the same spoon. She asks whether Q's would like to have a bite, but when he denies, she still tells him to have one bite. She extends the spoon while he asks for a different once, but Alia tells him to shut up and open his mouth, as these things are very normal in Russia. Q's looks at her face and realizes that she is clearly lying, but opens his mouth regardless and rejoices at the first deep-throated indirect kiss that he has ever had. Soon they return back to their shy self when Alia asks what should they do if they want to beat Yuki. Q's tells her that last year their president wasn't even in the student council and yet ended up winning the elections, but that was because he had a plan. Q's explains that at the start of the year, Ken was a fat fatty who had average grades at best. But soon as the year went on, he ended up losing all the weight and started doing better in academics, which drew all the fatphobic people to his side as they realized that Ken can achieve things that he doesn't have through hard work. This way Ken created a compelling story which is needed for every election. He orders some food for himself and tells her that she should give a speech in front of the entire student body and try to win them that way, and Alia agrees. Soon his food arrives and they start eating when he offers Alia a bite. She eagerly agrees, but this loser gives her a different spoon and a bowl to eat, and because it was super spicy, she ends up tearing up once again. While walking back at night, Alia asks Q's whether he has any idea who Yuki will be partnering up with, and Q's replies that she shouldn't have much trouble finding a partner as she is pretty popular, but claims that if she picks Tan as her partner, it would be very difficult for them to win. Alia asks who Tan is, and he explains that she is the opponent of Yuki from junior school who fought till the very end for the position but lost by a small margin. After that they decide to head back to their homes for the night, and the next day they meet again in the council room where surprisingly enough Yuki has already found a new partner. She comes in with a glowing face, smiling at Q's before revealing that her partner is going to be Ayano from her class, who looks at Q's directly, while he wonders why is his sister tormenting him so much. The next morning when he goes back to school, he is approached by Ayano, who asks him whether he is seriously planning to fight the elections against Yuki. Q's wonders what is this girl planning to do and replies that he is indeed going to fight elections with Alia as he has promised to do everything in his power to make her the president. Ayano looks at him blankly and asks whether he forgot how strict his grandfather is about the matters of family. This brings a distaste in Q's mouth as he remembers his grandfather constantly barking about how family is the most important. He tells Ayano that Yuki is still the most important person to him in this world, and he would always be by her side. But at the same time, he is going to help Alia win these elections, and that's his final decision. Ayano bows her head and asks whether he has any message for his grandfather, and Q's heatedly claims that if the old man has anything to say, he should say it to his face and leave Yuki alone. After that, he walks over to his classroom where his two incel friends grabs a magazine filled with pictures of idols and asks which one Q's prefers. Q's is a true Sigma, claiming he isn't interested in two-dimensional paper cuttings, but when forced to pick one, he picks the girl with brown hair. The bald incel immediately comments about how this woman looks like Masha and asks whether Q's is making moves on her, but Q's replies that she already has a boyfriend and is way above his league anyways. Suddenly, Alia ends up entering the classroom and spots Q's holding the magazine in his hands. This pisses her off as she calls him an animal in Russian before asking why the hell would a member of the student council bring a book like this. But Q's promises that Takeshi, the single-brain-celled incel, brought this stupid magazine and not him. Alia doesn't seem to care and sits down annoyed, while Takeshi, who is dumber than Biden himself, asks whether Q's would like to date Yuki. Q's replies that they are not in Alabama, so no, and moreover he wants a girl who can also be his best friend. Alia smiles and claims in Russian that she can be his best friend as well. This makes Q's blush, while the others ask what's up with him. He tries to change the subject, but Takeshi's brain is smoother than a bowling ball as he can't get a hint and continues saying that a girl should have a cute smile and should be very friendly with everyone. Q's realizes that Alia is feeling sad about this, so he asks her to be a bit more considerate. So this pea-brained incel jumps up and claims that personality doesn't matter as long as the girl is as pretty as Alia. This was the worst thing he could have said to a modern, strong, independent woman, as Alia gets into his face and tells him that incels like him will never find a woman who is three-dimensional and grabs the magazine before taking it away. Later that day, all of the council members arrive at the council. While the girls decide to gamble Kit Kats as it is already sanctioned in Russia, Yuki decides to take everything away from Alia, so she is forced to survive on knockoff products from Russia and seems to be doing pretty well, as she is good at bluffing and Alia can't read her well. Sarah, Ken and Q's are sitting on the opposite table, keeping scores when Ken comments that he always thought Alia would be more composed, but she seems to be super easy to read, which Yuki is taking full advantage of. Q's laughs, claiming that a battle of wits is where Yuki is at her strongest, when Sarah claims that she can't ever figure out what's going on with Masha though. She always looks with such a pretty angelic smile that it would seem like she is a Russian goddess herself with no flaws in her. Ken laughs, but then asks about Ayano's relations with Yuki, and Q's replies that she serves Yuki and her family, as her grandparents did before her. Sarah is surprised by this, and asks whether her parents also serve the Yuki family, but Sarah shakes her head, claiming that they are office workers, and she just chose this path because she admired the commitment of her grandparents. She almost lets it slip that Q's and Yuki are siblings, but Q's manages to cover it up and tells her to be more careful as no one in their school knows about their relationship. Ken seems very interested and asks whether she received any kind of special training, and Ayano nods, claiming that her grandparents have drilled it in her that she needs to be like a shadow, always away from limelight and working behind the scenes to make sure the person who she is serving never has to face any issues. Soon enough, Masha also walks up to their table and sits down beside Q's, asking Ayano if she can refill her cup. She tells everyone that Alia ended up sending her away as she wanted to play on her own. They all look at both Yuki and Alia completely engrossed in her game when Q's claims that Alia seems to be enjoying herself. The others can't really see this, as she seems super stressed about the game. Soon the bottle of juice that they were sharing runs out, so Q's and Masha decide to head out for a drink run and ask everyone for their preferred drink. Literally every single person in the room mentioned a different drink, but Q's ends up remembering all of them exactly after one listen, which surprises everyone as he simply walks outside. While walking with Masha as the sun was setting, she thanks him for standing in the elections with Alia as it means a lot to her. Q's replies that she doesn't have to thank him for something like that, but Masha claims that this is very special, as Alia never lets anyone help her as she hates depending on others, but surprisingly she is willing to get help this time. Q's straight up asks whether she intentionally acts like a stupid thought around Alia. This takes Masha by surprise, but she smiles, claiming that she doesn't want to compete against her own sister, as she knows Alia is a super hard worker. This makes Q's think about his own overachieving sister, who looks so elegant at school, and wonders whether she pretends to be a total nerd at home, but comes to the decision that the person at home is the actual Yuki and not what she becomes in the school. Masha asks Q's why does he pretend to be a lazy person when he himself is super responsible. This catches him off guard, but he smiles and claims that he wants to live his life without disappointing anyone. So he tries to act lazy so no one depends on him ever. Masha smiles warmly and pats him on the head, telling him that he is doing a great job, while Q's feels like her dog, but kind of likes it as well. The next morning, Alia gets stream sniped by Tan, the old rival of Yuki, who stops her in the middle of the school and asks why the hell did she stoop so low that she pulled Yuki's partner to join her team instead. Alia was shocked at this and didn't know what to say, while Tan asked her whether she was scared that she would have no chances of winning if Yuki was partnered up with Q's. Everyone in the school hears this fight and start watching, embarrassing Alia even more, who tells her that Q's himself wanted to be in her team, but Tan refuses to believe it. Thankfully, Q's arrives at the right moment and tells Tan to back off, as he indeed chose to run with Alia, and Yuki knows of this and doesn't mind it either. He tells Tan to apologize to Alia, but she walks to him straight up and challenges Q's into a presidential debate. She claims that people like Q's shouldn't have a place in the student council, let alone the elections, but Alia intervenes, telling her to back off, as if she wants to debate him, she will have to go through her. Tan turns out to be a total savage, and tells Alia that she is simply a puppet who gets good grades but has no social or life skills, so she will just get herself embarrassed, but claims that it might be better for the entire school to get rid of the eye candy from the presidential election, so she challenges both of them to a presidential debate at once. The next morning, both Q's and Alia head over to the council president, revealing their encounter with Tan, which confuses the president. He claims that Tan is a respected student and very smart as well, which means that it wouldn't be very easy to win against her in these debates. Alia doesn't seem to be bothered by it, but Q's mentions that they don't really have anything to gain from it, since Tan is not even in the presidential race, but Alia claims that it would still give her an opportunity to show her skills and ideology against Tan in front of the student body, which might win her some more support. Later that day, both Q's and Alia go over their game plan, while Q's tests her by listening to her answers against Tan's accusations till he is satisfied with her preparation. Before they were about to leave, Alia asks whether Tan doesn't like Q's, but he looks off into distance, replying that he thinks that both of them respect each other equally, and they don't have any bad blood. In fact, she was a very good friend of Q's during middle school. This surprises Alia a little, who asks why would Tan turn against Q's this way, and he replies that Tan probably thinks that he is simply trying to bring chaos in the elections. In Tan's eyes, Q's is leaving Yuki when she is at her strongest to support a different candidate for absolutely no reason than to spark some hurdles in her way and make things more interesting, which Tan doesn't like. The next morning, they both walk down to the auditorium, when they are approached by a Gen Z girl named Mia, who is basically Tan's friend. She seems to know Q's already and tells them to relax a bit before walking ahead. Alia doesn't really like the way she carries herself, but Q's claims that she is very popular among the students, so her words carry a lot of weight. Alia realizes that a person with connections can definitely be a threat, but Q's tells her not to worry about that and focus on the debate first. The auditorium soon starts getting filled up by students from every class gossiping about the elections. Alia slowly starts getting nervous at the sight of so many students who are probably talking about how she is not worthy of this position. She starts spiraling very quickly, thinking about how she has never made a meaningful connection with anyone before, but Q's snaps her out of it and tells her to calm down, as her enemy today is not Tan, but the perfect vision of herself that she wants to become. He tells her to Netflix and chill for a while, as if anything goes wrong, he will handle it. This calms her down a bit, and soon they all take their positions as the debate starts. Ken introduces both sides and asks the opposition about their view, and Tan quickly moves up to the podium, and instead of aiming for Alia, she decides to aim for Q's. She explains that the current members of the student council are solely picked out by the president and the vice president, which means that there is a lot of place for corruption, nepotism, and favoritism. She claims that students who have never achieved anything in their life, who get average grades in academics and are no good in sports, suddenly become the member of the student council, which makes them higher status than every other student who has been working his ass off to achieve something. She continues that the members of the student council should be solely picked out on the basis of their grades and performance in extracurricular activities by the teachers themselves, so that they can get rid of lazy slackers who do nothing but create chaos for everyone. This really impresses everyone, as the entire student body claps, while Ken calls up Alia to defend against these views. Alia confidently moves up to the podium and starts presenting her point of view. She explains that the school prides itself over the self-governance of students, as it shows that the students studying in this school are old enough to know how to carry themselves. Moreover, if Tan believes that the student council needs the help of teachers to decide something as small as choosing the members of the council, then it simply means that she is weak-minded and doesn't think she can do that on her own. Moreover, academic grades are not everything, as people have their own strengths and weaknesses. A slacker who is average in studies can have incredibly amazing social and problem-solving skills, which are very important to the student council. Hughes realizes that she has saved her position now, but Tan decides to interrupt and starts questioning, but all her questions turn out to be trash as Alia calmly manages to answer everything. While Hughes smiles as Tan was thinking that he is her rival in this debate, when in reality it was always Alia. Tan struggles to maintain her position and asks what would happen if the president or vice president go berserk. But before Alia could answer, some of the students start creating a ruckus, calling Alia an outsider and claiming that Tan's is much better suited in the council than her. This totally shakes her concentration, and she forgets what she was going to answer. Hughes realizes that this is the work of Mia, who planted these students. But the trick has worked, as the disturbance completely rattled Alia's confidence while Tan pushes her to answer the question. Alia was just about to break down completely when she feels the hands of Hughes on her back, who takes over the mic and claims that Alia seems to have lost her voice because she was deep-throating some hot dogs last night. He claims that he will continue the debate from here on, but instead of talking about points, he straight up starts a stand-up comedy routine and completely roasts the poor president for no reason. He claims that if the decision of who enters the student council was given over to the teachers who would select the top scorers of the school, Ken would have never become a president, as he had very trash scores and was a total fat loser during his first year. But because student council awards passion and talent, Ken was able to outgrow his fat self and became the president that they all love today. With that, he drops the mic and everyone looks at Tan for her answers, but she doesn't want to get roasted, so she runs away, followed by Alia. Alia catches her after a while, only to find her crying, as it turns out that she was shipping Hughes with Yuki all this while, but suddenly Alia came in the picture and Hughes left Yuki as if it was nothing. This made her very mad, as she always thought Yuki was the best since she defeated her during the middle school presidential elections, so Hughes choosing Alia meant that even Alia is better than her. Alia understands her mindset but tells her to get help from a psychologist and returns back to the auditorium, where she finds out that the debate was concluded and she was awarded the victory in the debate. She tells Hughes about what Tan said, and Hughes replies that she was one of the fiercest competitors they had during the middle school, but she ended up accepting her defeat against Yuki and Hughes, as she thought she could never defeat them. Alia looks at him and claims that she will work as hard as possible to become a person that Tan respects just as much as she respects Yuki, so that she can approve of her partnership with Hughes as well. Hughes smiles at this, but Alia asks him why did he ever pick her over Yuki when they had such a strong partnership. Hughes looks down sad as he remembers how he was forced to be away from his sister and wanted to make it up to her by supporting her throughout life, but decides to keep this information hidden and tells Alia that he never truly wanted to be a vice president and hated the spotlight, but he owed Yuki a favor, so he was forced to do it. But this time things are different, as he himself wants to support and work with Alia, who he believes would definitely make an excellent president. Alia seems to be very happy with this conversation when Hughes asks why did she decide to run the presidential elections with him, since it is such an important thing, and she could have found someone much better. But Alia replies in Russian, and for once even Hughes doesn't understand what she said. She immediately gets up and starts walking while he follows her, asking what did she just say to him, but Alia smiles playfully and tells him to learn Russian if he wants to know what she said. The next morning, Hughes enters the classroom late as usual, where he finds Alia already seated in her bench, while a bunch of guys immediately gather around Hughes, congratulating him on the victory against Tan in the general debate of the student council. Hughes smiles and walks past them, immediately wishing Alia a good morning. But she seems to have reverted back to her normal self and gives him a cold shoulder, which is her usual. So Hughes sits back down while the guys keep hounding him with questions about his strategy against Tan. Hughes realizes that this might be the moment for Alia to show herself to be an approachable person and to build a good relationship with her classmates. So he tells them that Alia strategized everything, and if they want to know exactly what her thoughts were, they'll have to ask her directly. The guys are obviously too scared to ask Alia anything and simply stare at her, which is not what Hughes wanted, so he kicks his incel friend beneath the desk, who gets the hint, and initiates the conversation with Alia, asking whether she wrote her own speech or did she have a ghostwriter. Alia is a little surprised to see people interacting with her, but she replies that she herself wrote the speech for the debate. He compliments her oratory skills, claiming that she spoke very well, and asks whether it was her strategy to not ask any questions from Tan and instead focus on answering the questions put up against her. Some other guys ask whether Q's entry midway through the debate was pre-planned, but Alia truthfully replies that she had no idea that he was going to do that. Some guys start laughing at Tan for running away, calling her pathetic and claiming that she deserved what came her way because she was the one who fired the first shot. Alia doesn't like all this, so she gets up and asks Q's whether she can talk to him alone. He agrees and calmly follows her outside the room. They walk to the student council where Alia was looking conflicted, so Q's ends up speaking and asks whether she got triggered by people who were trash-talking Tan. She looks down and starts saying that Tan had a reason for what she did, but Q's cuts her off, claiming that they know about her reason, but the other students do not know and have a right to comment on her. Alia still looks a little down, but Q's tells her that they shouldn't let themselves get bothered by what people are saying about their opponents, otherwise they have already lost the election. Alia still can't digest this completely and claims that they didn't defeat Tan, because she forfeited midway, and Q's wonders how this imbecile cannot understand that forfeiting a match is also considered as a fair loss. He claims that they should put their own interests in front and proudly claim their victory against her, but Alia claims that she wants to help Tan. Q's decides that he can't use logic against women and decides to give in and agrees to help her so that Alia can have a clear conscience. Alia apologizes to him as she knows this would create even more work for him, but Q's would do anything to reach second base, so he tells her not to worry about it. This act really touches Alia's heart as she looks at him with lovely eyes, but Q's notices some disturbance near the president's table and realizes that Ken and his girlfriend must have been wrestling in this room alone and hid underneath the table. He decides to pretend like he doesn't know about their presence, but Alia starts coming closer to him, putting him in a really rough spot. He decides to sacrifice the president and tells Alia that the president is hiding underneath the table, which shocks her, while the shameless president emerges with his girl, claiming that they were just practicing some brand new jiu-jitsu moves on each other. Q's offers to forget about everything that happened here today, and they eagerly agree, while Q's and Alia leave the room. Alia is too embarrassed to say anything though and simply rushes off, claiming that she has work to do. Q's decides to get back to work as well, so he heads down towards Mia's classroom where he finds her surrounded by her girlfriends who keep talking about parties and ask Mia to attend the ones that they are throwing. Mia seems to be zoned out as she idly replies to them about the upcoming exams, claiming that she would have to study a bit as well, when immediately a girl claims that they will cancel the party and create a study session instead. Mia snaps back to reality and starts acting like her popular self once again, claiming that she would love to attend the study session. Suddenly, she spots Q's standing on the doorway like a total creep and asks him what does he want. Q's stands there awkwardly, claiming that he wanted to talk, and Mia realizes that he must want to talk alone, so she excuses herself and they both find an empty classroom to talk. Mia immediately asks whether he wants to go on a date with her, but Q's is a good Christian man who doesn't fall for the evil vials of a woman and refuses this witch's enchantment, telling her to cut her crap as he wants to talk about something serious. She asks what's up his butt today, and Q's replies that Alia's up his butt as she doesn't like people trash talking Tan for no reason. Mia looks up, claiming that she didn't expect that Alia had a heart, and asks Q's that they should know Tan and her are their enemies. She asks whether he knew she planted some of her men in the audience to create a ruckus during Alia's speech, and Q's replies that he knew all about it, but still wants to help. She replies that she isn't really friends with anyone apart from Tan, which confuses Q's since Tan is such an opposite compared to Mia. But she claims that opposites attract, and she finds the mysterious nature of Tan very interesting, and that's why she likes to help her. She asks what does he plan to do, and Q's claims that they should spread a new rumor, giving a plausible reason for why Tan ran away from the debate that day. Mia looks a little surprised, and claims that something like this would put Alia's victory in the debate under question. Q's replies that they are fine with that. Mia smiles, claiming that they have a deal, and leaves the classroom, while Q's wonders whether he could trust Mia not to spread any more rumors against Alia. Suddenly Ayano emerges from behind the desks alongside Yuki, who laughs a made-up evil laugh for absolutely no reason. Q's asks what the hell is wrong with them, and what are they doing here. Ayano truthfully claims that they wanted to have a secret meeting, but didn't know what to talk about, so they were pretending to have a meeting when Q's and Mia came. Yuki asks what was he doing making plans with his enemies, when suddenly Alia enters the room looking for cues and finds him alone with Ayano and Yuki. She immediately forms her conclusions and walks away, claiming that Q's is a complete man-ho. Back in Mia's classroom, her friends ask why was Q's looking for her, and she lies that he wanted to know why Tan missing school is today. The classmates claim that having such a one-sided loss would upset anyone, but Mia immediately lays down her trap, claiming that Tan actually ran away from the stage because she was mad at her. The classmates look surprised, but Mia claims that she planted some of her men to cause disturbances during Alia's speech, but Tan managed to find out about it midway through the debate and angrily left the stage as she felt her victory wouldn't have been pure. This rumor immediately starts spreading, while Q's goes after Alia and promises that it was just coincidence that the two girls were in the classroom. Alia doesn't really believe him, but Q's decides to pull out a new trick and asks whether she would like to study together after school for the upcoming exam. Alia ends up agreeing, and later that day after school they head down to the student council where they start working on the questions together. Q's felt at ease and wanted to stay with her alone, but obviously his demon of a sister alongside Ayano enter to disturb the peace. They ask whether they can also study with them, and Alia immediately refuses in Russian but agrees to study with them in English. They start working while Alia keeps talking in Russian, claiming that she wanted to stay alone with Q's and was having fun, while he tried to keep his heart from thumping so loudly. Alia realizes that Q's has been simply looking at the answers instead of the actual questions and asks about it. But Yuki replies that Q's has always been like that and only looked at the solutions. Alia looks confused and asks whether they are only childhood friends since they often feel like more than friends, but Q's refuses, and thankfully Masha ends up entering the room, bailing Q's out of that question. She offers them all some tea as they all take a short break when she notices a book lying on the president's chair about hypnosis. She immediately picks it up and asks Alia to use hypnosis on her, but she immediately refuses, claiming that she doesn't believe in all that crap. Lost, she turns towards Q's and begs him to use it on her, and Q's can't refuse to those lovely eyes, so he agrees. She sits in front of him while he reads from a book and asks her to concentrate on his fingers. She follows his instructions and soon enough falls into a deep sleep. Alia looks a little confused but believes that her sister is just messing with them and tries to wake her up only to fail. Q's immediately reads further and uses the technique to wake her up, and once Masha wakes up, she doesn't even remember getting hypnotized. Alia still doesn't believe it, so Yuki suggests her to try it herself to see whether she gets hypnotized or not. She immediately agrees and sits in front of Q's, who uses the same technique on her and easily puts her to sleep alongside Masha, who gets hypnotized for absolutely no reason. Yuki immediately starts coming up with devious plots about how they can take advantage of this situation and tells both Masha and Alia to do whatever their heart desires. Immediately, they both turn towards Q's and Masha starts petting both Alia and Q's while sitting in between them. Q's wonders what the hell is happening with him, when suddenly Alia decides to get up and starts stripping down, followed by Masha doing the same. Both Yuki and Q's try to snap them out of the hypnosis but fail, wondering what they will do now. But thankfully, Sarah arrives just in time and immediately gets hang of the situation. Q's was pretty happy with himself, but Sarah walks up to him, cracking her knuckles and asks whether he saw or remembers anything. But Q's immediately shakes his head, scared that this demon would probably reset his entire life and shut him down before he even managed to express his love for Alia. A few days later, Q's is trying to study, but he can't manage to focus on the books. He looks at the clock and thinks that his favorite anime is going to be aired soon, but reminds himself that he won't open the TV because he is a man who can control his urges. The exams start tomorrow, and he knows that if he opens the TV, he will surely fail. He returns to studying and thinks that he forgot how to work hard after middle school. Despite that, he wants to power through his studies so that his scores don't affect Alia's reputation negatively. Speak of the devil, he immediately gets a call from Alia. He picks up the call and asks what's up, and Alia replies that she didn't call him for any particular reason. Q's decides to act like an hotshot and asks if she missed him so much that she couldn't resist calling him. She replies in Russian that he is right, and then immediately switches to Japanese, saying that she was worried that he was not studying and watching anime like the filthy weeb he is. Q's assures her that he is not watching anime, but admits that he doesn't have the motivation to study. He asks her for some tips about how to increase his motivation, and she tells him to make a bet. She asks what are his goals for this exam, and Q says that he wants to be placed in the top 30 students of their year. Alia says that it is nearly impossible, and then proceeds to tell him that if he manages to reach his goal, she will fulfill his one request. Q immediately asks if that means a night of Netflix and chill, but she refuses, saying that he needs to win the Nobel Prize for that. Alia then says that if he fails to reach his goal, he will have to do one thing for her, and he is all in for that too because he enjoys being the sub. He accepts the bet and tells Alia that she would regret suggesting it, but she just scoffs at him. He tells her that this is not how they talk to their elders here in Japan, but Alia says that they are the same age. Q reminds her that her birthday is in September, while his falls in April. That means he is older than her. Alia suddenly falls silent on hearing this, and then Q cuts the call, wondering how could she realize that he lost focus. The truth was that Alia was watching a horror movie and got freaked out, so she called Q, but she couldn't hurt her pride by telling him the truth. However, her pride was hurt even more after she learned that Q's birthday has passed. She is angry that he didn't tell her about his birthday earlier because she really wanted to celebrate it with him. She plops on the bed, sulking and cursing Q. 5 days later, the exams are finally over, and Q immediately asks Alia if she is free this evening. She acts cold and distant, but agrees when he offers to walk her home because they have some student council matters to discuss. On the way, Q realizes that something is wrong, because ever since their phone call that night, Alia has not flirted with him in Russian even once. He asks her why has she been acting differently since the exams began, and Alia gets a bit conscious. She says that she made sure to hide it, but Q says that he was able to notice it. Alia asks if he was really paying attention to her even though he was busy with exams, and Q replies that it is obvious that he cares for her because she is his partner. She gets happy on hearing this, but the very next moment, her mood changes, and she asks Q why did he not invite her to his birthday party. Q asks what party, and then proceeds to tell her that he has not had a birthday party ever since elementary school. He suddenly realizes that he has a weapon to tease Alia now, and he asks her if she was so interested in celebrating his birthday. Alia gets embarrassed and says that in Russia, not inviting someone to their birthday is a way of telling them that they are no longer welcome in their life. Q teases Alia some more, and then says that since he doesn't want to leave any misunderstandings between them, he will throw a belated birthday party so that she can come to it. She is really happy to hear that, and calls Q an overreacting idiot as she leaves. The next day, Q is waiting for Alia, who comes dressed up for their birthday party date. As they walk through the city, everyone stares at them, and Q knows that they are wondering how an ugly loser like him could be with a Russian goddess. He tells Alia that they are drawing a lot of attention, and she proudly tells him that it is the price she pays for being beautiful. He remarks that a lot of people must try to hit on her, and she affirms. Q then asks her how she deals with them, and she replies that she rambles in Russian till they leave. Q is kinda amused because he pictured Alia cursing the unwanted guys in Russian, and she asks him what is so funny. He says that he is glad that she is not getting fooled by random pickup artists, and she asks why is he trying to act like a possessive boyfriend. Q calmly replies that since they are on a date, he should act like a boyfriend, and Alia is delighted. She mumbles in Russian that it is her first date, and the clueless Q thinks that she means her first date with him, because there is no chance that a baddie like her has not gone out with anyone before him. Soon, they arrive at a popular steakhouse, and Q plans to impress Alia by showing off his gourmet taste, but she tells him that she often comes to this place with her family, leaving him aghast. Anyway, they go inside, where Q starts talking business. He tells Alia about the closing ceremony that is going to happen soon, in which the candidates for the post of president tell the students about their plans and motivation. After that, their partners talk about why they are supporting the candidate. Q says that the most important thing about the closing ceremony is the reaction of the students. While there is no voting, students only clap for the candidates they want to win. So unpopular losers often get 0 claps, but Q knows that they are not so pathetic. Even then, he knows that they won't be able to win against Yuki right now, so their goal should be to keep the difference in their popularity to a level they can cover up later. On top of that, he wants to get the first speech, because the students are usually confused about whom to pick that time, so their response is a bit silent naturally. Q says that they can use it as an excuse in case they don't get much positive response, but Alia is not happy by this cowardly tactic. She gives him a judgmental look, and Q's tells her that if she wants to win, she will have to play mind games on Yuki, but they should skip that option. Alia also agrees that she doesn't plan to play dirty so early in the game, and Q says that unless Yuki's side starts something, they will stay passive. Just then, their order comes, and they enjoy some premium beef. Alia then asks Q's if he was behind the rumors about Mia planting her friends in the audience to influence their debate the other day. Q says that it was all Mia's idea because she also wanted to save Tan's dignity. He then says that because of those rumors, the results of the debate have lost their impact. He apologizes to Alia, saying that he should have picked a better way of doing things, but she tells him that it is fine. She knows that she was useless in the debate anyway, and she owes the victory to him. She thanks Q's, who gets embarrassed, and Alia teases him, calling him cute. He is shocked, because she is not even using Russian to hide her feelings now. Suddenly, Alia picks up a piece of meat and decides to feed it to Q's to thank him for everything. With everyone staring at them, Q's is taken aback by this gesture. He realizes that Alia only acts bold like this when she thinks that he is flustered. He then eats her meat, and then she uses the same fork to resume her lunch. Q's is shocked because she isn't even fazed even after using the same fork, and realizes that she has completely outplayed him this time. After the lunch is over, Alia gives him a coffee mug as his birthday gift, and Q's tells her that it is really pretty. However, he realizes that it looks like one of those couple mugs that are sold in pairs. Alia compliments him, saying that he is a sharp one, because he guessed correctly. She tells him that she bought the cups in a pair, and she is already using one of them. Q's freaks out on hearing that, but then Alia says she is just kidding. That doesn't help him with his embarrassment, and he concludes that today is just not his day. The next day, as the parent-teacher meeting is going on in the school, the student council assembles and Ken tells everyone his plans to bring a summer uniform to their school. He plans to announce it at the closing ceremony, and the uniforms will be ready to use after the vacations end. Everyone likes the idea, and Yuki says that their regular uniform gets too hot and sweaty in the summer. Ken gives credit to his girl, and she says that it was only possible because of him. They start flirting, and Q's tells them to get a room. Masha brings tea for everyone, but she looks a bit nervous in front of Q's, who thinks it is because of the hypnosis incident. Later, Ken leaves the room as his parents arrive, and Q's decides to help Masha do the dishes. He uses this opportunity to apologize for the hypnosis incident, and she gets flustered as she tells him that it is fine because she started it in the first place. She is also curious about what exactly did she do when she was hypnotized, and Q struggles to come up with the correct answer that won't get him labeled as a predator. He tells her that she just pulled him and Alia into her arms and gave them head pats, and Masha is surprised to learn that it was all she did. She then suddenly asks Q's if he sneaked a peek when she was undressing, and he apologizes, saying that no straight man would miss that chance for anything. Masha angrily pouts, but Q's thinks that she looks more adorable than scary. She begins pinching his cheeks, telling him not to be naughty with girls like that again. Just then, she gets a call from her mom who is here to meet her teacher. Q's tells her to go and promises to handle everything here by himself. As he is dealing with the cutlery, Yuki says that now only the two of them are left here, and Q says that she should call her grandpa to come to school. Yuki suddenly leaps at him, asking him how can he be so cold when they are finally alone. Q's first reminds her that Ayano is still here, but then agrees that he has not been paying attention to his sister lately. Yuki complains that he has been ignoring her because he is having fun with Alia, and then lays down on the table, sulking. Her mood suddenly flips and she asks Q's to spoil her, so he acts like a Prince Charming, but that only causes her to burst out into laughter. As they are bickering, Q's gets a call from his grandpa, and he goes out to meet him. His grandpa is wearing a pure white suit that make him look like a mafia boss, and when Q's tells him to dress according to his age, he puts on some shades, asking if he passes the fit check now. Anyway, they sit outside his classroom, where Grandpa asks Q's if his dad could not make time for him this year too, and Q's replies that he is really busy with his job. Just then, Alia comes out of the classroom, and Q's immediately realizes that the timing could not be worse. Alia turns towards him and greets his grandpa, who hails her as a goddess. Q stops him from going any further and explains that his grandpa really likes Russia, and he even copied Putin's hairstyle. Alia is taken aback to see Q's passionate grandpa, and then her mom, Akmi, introduces herself. She says that her daughter keeps talking about Q's, and he gets embarrassed to hear that. In the meantime, his grandpa has reached Alia, and he holds her hands as he asks her to become his granddaughter-in-law. Q's freaks out and drags his grandpa away so that they can meet with his teacher. Even after the meeting, grandpa keeps on asking him about Alia, and he tells him to cut it off. Suddenly, he falls silent as he sees his mother Yumi coming towards him along with Yuki. Seeing her brings some painful memories for Q's, but his grandpa politely greets his daughter-in-law. A couple days pass by, and one night Q's has dreams about the time when all he wanted to do was make his mother happy and proud. He would get the best grades in his class only to try and make his mom happy, and even after that he started playing the piano like a prodigy, only to find everyone clapping for him apart from his mom, who still looked kind of sad. This made him try even harder, thinking that what he is doing is not enough. But his mother snaps one day, telling him to touch grass once in a while like normal men instead of a mom-loving Discord mod. This finally snaps Q's out of his dreamy state as he realizes that he is burning with fever. He somehow drags himself out of bed. When the bell rings, he opens the door pissed off, but everything goes out of the window when he spots Alia looking like a candy cane in front of him. He is shocked to see her here while she tells him that Yuki told her he was sick, so she got the meds for him. Q's realizes that even during his sickness, Yuki is playing her usual games and tries to take the med bag away, but Alia claims that she is here to nurse him as well, since he is a lonely no one in his life. Ouch. But Q's lets her in and soon they are in his room. Alia looks a bit taken aback as she has never been in a boy's room before, opposed to Yuki, who has been to every boy's room in their school for a night. She asks whether he has eaten anything and then proposes to make him a special Russian soup with vegetables which are cooked till falling apart. Q's agrees to eat, but immediately rejects the dish when Alia tells him that it takes 4 hours to cook. Alia then offers him some disgusting porridge, and poor Q's has no options but to agree and eat it quietly. She heads down to the kitchen, and like a total brain-rotted Gen Z, she starts watching Skibidi Toilet. She soon snaps out of it and decides to cook when she notices the cup that she gave him in the dishwasher, which makes her happy. A little while later, she brings the porridge to Q's wearing an apron which any man of culture would appreciate. She sits down and hands him the porridge before asking why is he such a lonely incel, and where are his parents. He quickly replies that his dad is busy at work and he doesn't have a mom. Alia decides not to pursue this topic further and tells him to rest while she works in the living room. Q's ends up oversleeping and wakes up late in the evening, expecting Alia to have left by now, but when he comes out, he notices that instead of one maid, there are 2 maids. I would have gone for a classic old-school 3-way, but Q's decides to play the waiting game. Ayano immediately comes beside him, telling Alia that she can leave now, but Alia claims that Ayano is Yuki's maid and not Q's. Ayano quickly replies that Yuki sent her here and asks whether Alia shouldn't work for her big day tomorrow. Q's immediately asks what they are talking about, but Alia doesn't reply and turns around to leave. She tells Ayano to take care of Q's and walks out the door without another word. Ayano takes him back inside and hands him some of the Russian soup that Alia made for him, which he really enjoys before heading back to bed, but Ayano keeps pestering him, asking whether he wants her to massage his back or help him take a bath. Q's is definitely stronger than me, as he rejects all these options, claiming that he just wants to sleep. The next morning, he ends up oversleeping once again and heads out to find Ayano still there, cleaning the house. She asks whether he is feeling better, and he replies that he feels great before sitting down for some lunch. She gives him a bowl of noodles and his daily medicine, but something bothers Q's since it's not like him to oversleep. He immediately tells Ayano to bring him the box of medicine, and when she does so, he realizes that these drugs contain a sedative, which he knows from his roofing days. He asks whether it was Yuki's idea to slip this into his meds, but Ayano doesn't reply. Q's realizes that something is wrong and immediately starts dressing up before leaving for school, even though Ayano told him not to. He runs towards the class when he hears 2 students talking about Alia gave it her all, but Yuki is just much better. He realizes that Yuki has made her move already and used his sickness to his advantage. He enters the classroom only to find Alia sitting alone and sad. When she sees him, she immediately apologizes, claiming that she messed everything up, while Q's asks her to tell him everything that happened. Alia begins that a couple days ago, Yuki cornered her in the council room and told her about him being out with cold. She told her that usually she takes care of him, but right now she is very busy, and as expected, Alia takes the bait and volunteers to help. Yuki immediately gave him the drugs and the address, claiming that this is what he always takes in sickness, but before she could leave, Yuki requests her to be present during the lunch announcement. Alia is taken aback by this, but Yuki makes some excuse and also adds that this could be a good time to drive home her victory at the debate. Alia, however, tells her that she has no intent of doing that, since what's done is done, but Yuki pursued and somehow made her agree to come to the announcement anyways. After she agreed though, Yuki's behavior changed, as she claimed that Alia must not be taking her seriously if she is letting her advantage go this easily. Alia realizes that Yuki is definitely trying to do something, and Yuki admits that, claiming that Q's sickness has given her the perfect opportunity to strike. Alia immediately gets a bit pissed at this and claims that she is a strong and independent woman who needs no man by her side. And Yuki was expecting this to happen and pokes her even more, claiming that no matter what she says, she will definitely run to Q's for help. But Alia refuses, claiming that she would deal with this on her own. Today, when she went into the broadcast room, she was fully prepared, but Yuki immediately started apologizing to her for her attitude the other day, claiming that she took an overly aggressive approach, and she didn't mean it at all. Alia was confused but tells her not to worry as it just shows how serious she is, but Yuki claims that it is much more than that. She immediately claims that she used to have an older brother, who was much more talented than her and better at everything. Everyone expected great things from him, but one day he just disappeared, and that's why she wants to become just as good as him. This new information shocks Alia, who was not ready for this emotional baggage, and Yuki takes advantage of this by immediately starting the broadcast and asking Alia what she would do if she became the council president. Alia was so rattled by the story before that she felt bad going on the aggressive stance she had prepared and ended up going blank. She starts crying, calling herself a loser, while Q's realizes the devious plan of Yuki to first get Alia fired up and then come up with a sob story to completely shake her off her game. He quickly snaps Alia out of it though, claiming that no harm has been done since the after-school announcements are hardly heard by anyone. He claims that Yuki was just laying groundwork for her plans for the school ceremony and was hoping that Alia would spiral after today and not recover at all. Alia realizes that Q's might be telling the truth and looks up at him only to notice a devious smile spreading across his dumb face, making him look like a total villain. Alia, however, seems to be into bad boys as she mumbles in Russian that the look suits him. She tells Q's that after hearing Yuki's story about how she is doing this for her family, she wasn't able to say that she is simply running for the presidency just for herself. But Q's tells her to keep her head held up high and the middle finger higher, since she doesn't need any noble reason to pursue something she likes, and she is perfect in her own way and is more charming than Yuki can ever be. This really wins her confidence back as she smiles and claims that she still feels bad for Yuki and her dead brother. This really pains him to know that her own sister is pretending that he is dead, when suddenly the door opens and the school thought arrives alongside Mia, not Khalifa. Mia immediately apologizes for her behavior during the debate and the fact that she never said sorry afterwards, and asks Alia why didn't she declare her victory over the microphone during the broadcast. Alia replies that she never won the debate as Mia ended up leaving the podium, so they can't call it a victory. Mia realizes that Alia is very prideful, but she has her own pride and claims that she herself will announce it during the closing ceremony. But Q stops her and hatches a plan alongside them to help Alia's standing. Mia agrees to help them as a way to apologize, while Alia asks weren't they trying to go for a draw, but Q's claims that Yuki fired the first shot, so it's now their turn to pull the trigger. The next morning, Alia gives a big practice speech in front of Q's, who seems to like it a lot and claims that if she manages to give a speech like this tomorrow, then their win is guaranteed. But Alia is not so sure about herself and asks Q's how he manages to interact with the audience. Q's tells her that she can easily get the attention of the audience if she keeps one shirt button open. But before Alia could even reply, Yuki enters the room alongside Ayano and immediately starts slut-shaming Alia for using her massive honkers to win over the audience. Alia claims that it's not her fault that Yuki is flatter than the earth, while Q's wonders what the hell will happen if they start fighting right now. He tries to break the fight while Alia tells Yuki to get ready for defeat, as she is going to whoop her ass with her speech tomorrow. Yuki turns her attention towards Q's, asking slyly whether he is mad at her for taking advantage of his sickness. But Q's claims that she is like her pet dog, who he wants to give head pats for daring to bite him, and teach her a lesson to never try it again at the same time. This worries Yuki, who wonders whether he will force her to get stuck in the washing machine again. Before the matter could escalate further though, Ken arrives with the other members of the council, claiming that it's time to decide who will go first tomorrow. They get ready to toss a coin to decide tomorrow's speech order, and the honor to flip the coin goes to the beautiful Masha. The coin is tossed in the air, and while it comes down, Yuki wonders why did her brother try to intimidate her just now, as it's usually not his style and he likes to operate from the shadows. The coin comes down and Alya guesses wrong, which means that Yuki gets to choose what to do. She wonders whether she should let Alya go first, so she finds out what Q's plan is. But at the same time, the person who goes first has an advantage, so Yuki decides to call Q's bluff of trying to scare her and decides to go first so she can win a decisive and dominant victory. The next morning, the students assemble in the auditorium, while one by one the student council member go ahead and address the students. Finally, Yuki's turn comes, and she goes out to the podium and confidently talks about how she is going to run for elections next year. She claims that if she becomes the president, she will make sure that all the students are heard equally, for which she will be putting out suggestion boxes. Even though this is a pretty lame idea, she sells it very well, promises to open an account on Feetfinder as well. This gets all the guys riled up as they start shouting in her support, while Kujo realizes that she is playing pretty dirty again, as she simply yapped on the stage without really meaning anything. He asks whether Alya is feeling fine, and she seems pretty determined and concentrated. Soon after that, Ayano is called on to stage, and she immediately gets all the attention for her cute face as she starts talking about how amazing Yuki is and how she wouldn't have missed if she was the trump shooter. People start clapping at this, and she returns back, getting a strong finish, while finally, Alya enters the stage and steps on the podium. Everyone looks at her massive plots, forgetting where her eyes are, but she gains their attention immediately as she starts talking in Russian. People look at her wondering whether she is Putin's agent, but she finally reverts back to English, apologizing for her Russian. This seems to be going exactly according to plan, since Q's new Yuki is a proper thought who will sell her soul to get attention, so he decided to confuse the audience by using Russian, which will make them forget all about Yuki immediately. She honestly tells everyone that she got transferred to this school last year, and unlike Yuki, she has no proven track record of being a council president before. But she promises that she can work harder than anyone and is willing to give any voter a sloppy top. People look at her in disbelief, while she points at Q's friends, claiming that she spit on their thing and gave them the guac guac 2000. This really shocks every single person sitting there, while she continues talking like a politician, promising that she is not corrupt and will make America great again. But it seems to be working, as the student body seems to be filled with right-wingers who didn't like Yuki throwing insults at their lord and savior, Trump the Orange Man. They all start clapping for her one by one, while Alya steps off the podium and returns back towards Q's, who asks what the hell was that all about, topping off his friends. Alya immediately changes the topic, claiming that he is supposed to go next, so Q's walks back onto the stage to deliver the killing blow. Instead of giving a speech, however, he starts performing a stand-up with some crowd work, and once the students got tired of his cringe jokes, he decided to recover his lost aura by claiming that he was the vice president when Yuki was the president in middle school, and he was the on who did everything while Yuki's sorry ass kept getting stuck in random household objects. He claims that he decided to dump Yuki's ass because Alya has a bigger one, but more importantly because he believes that Alya is a genuine person who can actually bring about a change in this school. This was already pretty convincing, but he puts the nail in the coffin by announcing that instead of opening an account on Feetfinder, Alya will be opening an account on OnlyFans, where she will be joined by the school thought as well as Mia not Khalifa. This really shocks everyone, as just a couple days ago Alya and Mia had a debate where they were on the opposing teams, but now they will be working together on and off screen. They all start clapping while Q's and the others thank them and leave the stage. Yuki realizes that they totally got their ass cheeks clapped, but decides that this is not the end yet, as she has many more strategies, as the elections will only happen once the summer break is over. Meanwhile, Alya and Q's walk towards the ranking board, where Alya happily notices that she is ranked as the #1 favorite to win the elections now instead of Yuki. They start walking towards the locker room, where Q's asks when he will be receiving his promised sloppy top. Alya looks embarrassed, but she is a total soldier and gives Q's the time of his life before leaving the school. While walking back, Q's musters his strength and tells Alya that Ayano and Yuki will be meeting up all summer long to work on their strategy, and they should do that as well. Alya immediately realizes that Q's wants to spend more time with her, but she happily agrees. If you liked this video, you would love the story about this magicless loser born in a world filled with magic, who decides to take up a sword instead to climb his way to become the strongest so his crush would notice him.